right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here. We're back. Another episode of the Sportsmen. We missed last week. Our apologies. We had some travel and some Wi-Fi issues. You know, you can never expect an Airbnb, to have ideal Wi-Fi. At the bottom line, we deal with bad Wi-Fi on a regular basis on our other. So that's neither here nor there. Now, today we are missing one of our sportsmen, the tickets. So we're going to do things a little differently today. It's going to be myself and our dear friend, Mikey V. Welcome on. And you know what? I want to get right into it. There's a lot of things to discuss, a lot of things that have happened since our last episode. First and foremost, let's quickly go over Aaron Rodgers moving to the New York Jets. A lot of buzz about it. I mean, Mikey V, you called this early and often. It's gone down. I want to know what your thoughts are. Do you think he is going to be successful there? Do you think he's set up to be successful? Obviously, they brought in some pieces for him, bringing Lazard, bringing Cobb and whatnot, and they have Garrett Wilson there. What are your thoughts on just the overall dynamics of the team now that he's there? I think they're like minus 150 to make the playoffs as Vegas live odds. Thoughts on Aaron Rodgers being a New York Jet?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to pull up their Super Bowl odds right now. Forget their playoff odds. The playoff odds, they're in my eyes, unless Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, that's the only way this team doesn't make the playoffs, in my opinion. Right now, they're the sixth favorite to win the Super Bowl. They're plus 1,400 to win the Super Bowl. I think there's a lot of value in that play. I really do. That's how good I think it's going to work out with Aaron Rodgers. I think the team is built for success immediately. I mean, you look at a team last year that was a very good football team, albeit the quarterback position. That was their weakness. Zach Wilson, looking like a mega bust so far. Mike White, the Cinderella story that was Mike White, kind of came to an end. Although I like his grittiness, his toughness, but he got beat up pretty badly and he just couldn't hang around. But you look at what they did in the draft. They got a center in Joe Tippmann from Wisconsin, who I think was, if not for John Michael Schmitz from Minnesota, I think Tippmann's probably the top center out of the draft, which I love. They took an O tackle out of Pittsburgh in the next round, which I think today explains why they did not pick up the fifth-year option for Mekhi Becton. So that pick makes a lot of sense to me. And then you just take a look at what's already present and in place. This team, right, you got to look at it. They had arguably, if Breece Hall doesn't get hurt, they had probably the number 1 and 2 vote getters for Offensive Rookie of the Years, one of which won in Garrett Wilson, the receiver out of Ohio State, and then Breece Hall, the running back from Iowa State, who got hurt but was looking like a tremendous weapon before he got injured. He was awesome. Then you go to the other side of the ball. The defense, we know the defense is a very good unit. They got the top corner in the draft, Sauce Gardner, and he wins Defensive Rookie of the Year. The offensive line, they patched the holes in the draft. They still have Mekhi Becton for another year at least.
Yeah.
So this team is ready to win now. They bring over Allen Lazard. So now they're going to have Lazard. Don't forget about who they brought over from Kansas City. They bring a speedster over from Kansas City and McCole Hardman. They'll have McCole Hardman. They got Lazard. They got Garrett Wilson. They got Breece Hall. I mean, this team is built to win. This is the best overall team that Aaron Rodgers has played on in a long time, in my opinion. But it's going to all come down now. Tough division, but you know what? Like the Bills, to me, Josh Allen, our guy, obviously, I love Josh Allen. Josh Allen has to stay healthy. He's been banged up now a couple years. Last year, it was really unfortunate to see him go down. He needs to stay healthy in Buffalo. Miami, I don't know what you're going to get out of Tua Tagovailoa. I think the Dolphins look like on paper a Super Bowl contending team, right? They went all in.
Going to be good again this year.
Defense is going to be very good. It's kind of funny because I think out of all these teams, though, now Josh Allen has proven himself. Yes, he has. He's a tremendous player. But I think if you look at injury history and performance history, and you combine it, the Jets may have the most reliable quarterback of the entire division, which when it boils down to it, when you got to win games in the playoffs, win games on the road, you need the most reliable, consistent quarterback. And if Josh is healthy, I think he could play on par with Aaron Rodgers. But if he gets dinged up again, Rodgers is the best. Rodgers is the best quarterback in the division.
You think the Bills bringing that Kincaid kid in with Dawson Knox, with Stephon Diggs, with Gabe Davis, and that offensive front, do you think that they have like just a firepower that they can? To me, I mean, I feel like they can run the 2 tight end sets now with this. Obviously, he's a rookie, but I think arguably the best tight end in the draft. And I think like with when you got a guy like Stephon Diggs who's bringing in double coverage already early on, it just opens up so much. I think the Bills are the best team in this division. I agree with you. Rodgers is the best quarterback in terms of just veteran leadership and in terms of knowing how to read and how to adjust and adapt in game to defensive schemes and whatnot. But listen, this division a few years ago was a wreck. I mean, aside from the Patriots, all these teams were nowhere to be seen. And now you can make the argument this is the best division.
Yeah, and
aside from the AFC North.
And it's done a 180 completely. The Patriots are in the basement now. They're the basement dweller. And they will continue to be so. I don't know how much longer Belichick's got over there. Not that they're going to ever fire him, but I don't know how much longer he's going to continue down this path if they keep losing football games and they're not going to win the division and they're not going to contend for the division or make the playoffs. But that being said, bro, I really think, so this is how I think. I think the Bills, if Allen stays healthy, are the most proven team. I think the Jets have the highest ceiling of any team. And I think the Dolphins on paper, if they get the quarterback play and he stays healthy, may be the best team on paper. So the way it's going to shake out is going to be extremely interesting because Miami's loaded on defense. They solidified the back end even further. They're going to be very, very good. And obviously we know about the weapons they have on offense. They're just a track team. This team is a track team, extremely difficult to cover them. But I really believe that if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy and there's no major injuries to multiple players on the offensive line, the Jets are going to be so tough to beat. Now, Robert Saleh's really got to prove this year that he could coach them through some of the closer games and tougher games. But you know, Aaron Rodgers has seen everything. He's done everything. He's won Super Bowl. He's won MVPs. He's been to the playoffs. He's won his division. And, you know, this is a major opportunity for Aaron Rodgers. It's going to be so fascinating. It's going to be so fascinating. I'm excited to watch it.
Gun to your head, who are you picking to win the division?
I'm picking the Jets. I'm going to pick the Jets.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Jets because – yeah, I've been saying if they landed Aaron, that would be the difference for them to really take it to the next level. I think that he's number one. I think he's coming into New York pissed off. I think he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's already at off-season workouts, throwing the ball to Garrett Wilson. He's doing things that he wasn't doing in Green Bay, and I think he's going to do it with a chip on his shoulder. And a pissed off Aaron Rodgers, and nobody knows it better than me. Nobody knows it better than me. A pissed off Aaron Rodgers is not an Aaron Rodgers that you want to run into.
I know.
Yeah, you know from the positive end. I'm saying from the other end, from playing my team playing against him 2 times a year, when he's like he always came into Bear games and it pissed me off. It always felt like whenever they played the Bears, he had an extra pep in his step, and he admitted it. He always said that rivalry meant so much to him, and that's one thing about Aaron Rodgers that I respect. All the bullshit comments, I own the Bears, that's all well and good because he backed it up with his play. His play always backed it up. But if his nuts are twisted a little bit, which they are right now, he's going to be an even more dangerous person to play week in and week out because I think he's going to look to stick it to Gutekunst and Green Bay a little bit. I really think he's gonna. But again, I think that's going to be one of the most fascinating storylines in the NFL. Maybe the most fascinating storyline this season is what do the New York Jets do? Those fans have been starving for any kind of a playoff run to the Super Bowl since the Sanchez days with Rex Ryan. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I think it's going to be good. I will say that sports in general are more exciting and better when New York teams are good.
Yeah,
so when the Rangers are playing well and the Yankees are good or the Mets are good or, you know, the Giants or it's a city that's built to be successful. And I think like in terms of the media coverage and like just in terms of like how many people are rooting for those teams, I think generally sports are better when New York teams are better. I'm going to go ahead and take the Bills to win the division, but I do believe the Jets get a high, maybe the number one wild card, if not this. I think they're going to be a playoff team, and I think they can make some noise in the playoffs. This is a wild division. You could have 3 out of 4 teams make the playoffs. It's pretty.
If those 3 quarterbacks all stay healthy, Rodgers, Allen, Tua, that division's going to be a bloodbath. Like it's going to be what we thought the AFC West was going to be last year when Russell Wilson went to Denver. Remember, everybody thought, oh my God, Russell Wilson's in Denver with all those weapons. It's going to be Russell Wilson against Patrick Mahomes against Justin Herbert. Right. It's going to be very similar to that. I think you'll see a lot more success from Aaron Rodgers and the Jets than you saw from Denver with Russell last season. But it is going to be a bloodbath, an absolute bloodbath if they all stay healthy.
Next thing I wanted to talk about, moving topics, obviously NFL draft. This is a very passionate topic for you. You love to cover the draft. Give me an idea of like the winners, losers, overall notable picks. Obviously, there was a lot of buzz about, this Will Levis kid going in the first round. He drops to the second round. I thought the Eagles did very well with picking up Jalen Carter. First of all, how do you think your Bears did? And then secondly, if you had to give a winner of the draft, who would it be? And who do you think maybe could have done better?
I think the Bears were one of the winners of the draft. I'm not going to say they were the winner, but the Bears addressed, number one, they got their day one plug-and-play offensive tackle, who many had graded as the number one offensive tackle on the board in Darnell Wright. And not only did they get him, but they got him in a slot past where they were supposed to pick. A lot of people want to talk about how they passed on Jalen Carter. Listen, if the Seattle Seahawks and the Detroit Lions, both of whom love picking guys like that, especially Pete Carroll, and both had a positional need there at D-tackle, and they passed on Jalen Carter, there's a reason teams passed on Jalen Carter. A team like the Philadelphia Eagles is a perfect team to draft Jalen Carter because they can afford to miss on Jalen Carter because their team is already built so well. They already won the NFC last year. They were in the Super Bowl. They could take a gamble. The Bears couldn't. I like the moving back. I love the 2 D tackles that they got. They may be more high upside athletic guys, but then they got a day one starter at corner out of Miami. They got this receiver from Cincinnati who's an absolute burner. A lot of guys had a round 2 grade on him. They got him in the 4th round, I believe, Tyler Scott. I love him. And then other teams that did well. Listen, the Arizona Cardinals did very well. Yeah, the Arizona Cardinals, they moved down 3 spots in the first round, so they got a 2024 first round pick, and still they got Paris Johnson Jr., who's going to be a stalwart at left tackle for them, holding up the line for Kyler Murray. BJ Ojulari out of LSU is a good pick. The Cardinals set themselves up very well. They're going to have a ton of picks next year in the draft. Again, with the Cardinals, the only thing is Kyler the guy? I mean, they paid him like he is, so
there's some question marks there.
That's going to be depending.
What do they do with DeAndre Hopkins this year? I see.
Looks like now he's going to play, I guess.
Well, it looked like they were going to maybe trade him during the draft. Nothing happened. So, I mean, I guess to keep an eye on that. But what I think, going back to your Bears, I think the most notable thing to me is you got an elite wide receiver in trading the number one overall.
Oh yeah, that trade
Moore,
aside,
it's going to give so much of a security blanket option now to your guy, to your quarterback, who's going to now be able to like look for him early and often. It's just going to open up a lot. Whenever you can bring in a guy like that, I mean, look at last year. DJ Moore was still putting up numbers, and he didn't even have a number one guy throwing the ball to him. So. Yeah, it's
I mean, I always look to this situation for these quarterbacks in their 3rd year when they get when they get a legitimate wide receiver one. Buffalo did it with Josh Allen; they gave him Steph Diggs. Yeah. Philadelphia Eagles did it with Jalen Hurts; they gave him AJ Brown. Miami Dolphins did it with Tua; they gave him Tyreek Hill.
The Hurts.
It's what you have to do in order for your quarterback to be successful. You need a number one stud wide receiver. But yeah, outside of those teams, I think Philly drafted very well. They always draft very well. The Giants, I thought, had a really good draft. I thought they got a center that I wanted in John Michael Schmitz. They got Jalen Hyatt, the wide receiver from Tennessee. That's a major upside pick. So I think the Giants did very well. And then I think the quarterback situation, I talked about that the night before the draft with Adam Rank. We went on Twitter Spaces and we discussed at length the draft. And I said, ignore everything that you've been hearing the weeks leading up to the draft, especially the 2 weeks leading before the draft. They were trying to tell you a couple days before the draft that Will Levis was somehow going to be the first quarterback taken off the board.
That's outrageous.
Just watch the tape. If you watch the tape on all these quarterbacks throughout their careers, and you didn't think that C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young were going to go 1-2 or 2-1, one of those guys first, the next guy second, you're not watching college football close enough, because there was never a debate on how the first two quarterbacks were going to get picked. It was going to be Bryce and it was going to be C.J. And then I'm not surprised at all Anthony Richardson goes above Will Levis, because honestly, Levis and Richardson are both kind of guys who need to work in their systems a little bit. There's work to be done there, but Richardson's ceiling is much higher than Will Levis's because of his athletic ability. And that's no knock on Levis. Levis was hurt for the majority of last season. The season before, he showed you how dynamic of an athlete he could be running the football too. So I'm not surprised, but Will Levis to me seems like one of those guys, man, who I am so glad the Bears were not in any position to draft him. There's just something about Will Levis that rubs me the wrong way. I don't know what it is, if it's a little bit of arrogance, if a little bit of cockiness, a little bit of sense of entitlement. No knock on him. Maybe he will blow the league up, and I could be dead wrong. But I am just glad. I'm glad we weren't in a position to make a pick like that.
Well,
he ends up going the first pick in the second round.
You guys have your guy now in Fields.
Well, we'll see. This is going to be the year that determines it.
Well,
this will be the year that determines it. If he doesn't show market improvement as a passer this season and can't win more games with the help they put around him, there's going to be a big problem that's going to be a big problem for them. They're going to have to address next year.
I definitely think for for his longevity and for him to excel long term, he's got to lower the amount of rushing yards.
Absolutely.
I mean, you look at guys like Kyler Murray, you look at guys like, it takes one big hit, and you saw he got hurt. You don't want your quarterback having to scramble all the time.
No.
I mean, Lamar Jackson to me is like, I mean, he's a one of one. But that being said, like most quarterbacks, you want them to be able to pass first quarterback with the option of being able. And that's why I think Jalen Hurts this year was so much more successful, because you saw him throwing the deep ball, throwing it to A.J. Brown, being more successful as a passer. And then they could utilize him on short yardage
that's why, I mean, but that's why Jalen Hurts was able to do that. You look at A.J. Brown, you look at Dallas Goedert, and you look at the receiver from Alabama that they have, Devonta Smith. If you look at those three guys are better than any pass catchers the Bears had on the roster last year, and I'm including Darnell Mooney. I would rather if people want to sit here and tell me they'd rather have Darnell Mooney over Devonta Smith, they're lying. That's bullshit.
I think Darnell Mooney's going to be a really good number 2 for you this year.
He could be a great number 2. That's not the point. All I'm saying is that there's no way anybody could look at me dead in the eye and say they'd rather have Darnell Mooney than Devonta Smith. And Dallas Goedert is a top 5 tight end in this league as a pass catcher. So Jalen Hurts is surrounded by a bevy of weapons. Now, what they did with Fields, they gave him this backup running back from Texas, who, if it wasn't for Bijan Robinson, this guy probably could start at any team in the country, this kid Johnson that they drafted. And then you got Darnell Mooney to play the second or the third. This kid Scott, they drafted,
is going to be good.
Claypool, Komet will be good. And then, of course, DJ Moore. So they have guys there now, and they've
solidified the line. As a second tight end is not
Tunyon is not bad for depth. He's not bad at
No,
all.
not at all. I think you guys are going to have a really good team this year. I mean, you're going to be better than the Packers. I'm going to say that right now. The Packers are going to stink.
All rides on if Jordan. All's going to ride on and hinges on Jordan Love. It hinges.
They just extended him one more year, which honestly I think is the right play, because they got to see what they have in him. And if he comes out firing, I mean, you don't want to have. I mean, it's better to do it now than to wait and the guy turns out to be unbelievable, and then it's going to cost you a shitload more money. I think it's smart to do it now. Let's talk a little bit here quickly. I want to change pace. I want to talk about NHL playoffs. I know you're not a huge NHL guy.
I mean, Devils Rangers.
I wanted to talk Devils Rangers. What a series. But not only that, I mean, some of the upsets in this first round. The Bruins statistically had the best NHL season ever. Yeah. They were unbelievable. They lose to the Panthers. Then you have the NHL reigning champions, the Colorado Avalanche, get knocked out by a young, like basically brand new team in the Kraken. The playoffs are shaping up. And by the way, I know Dickie Gass, a big Devils guy. I know that you follow them a lot. I actually have the Devils coming out of the East now after all said and done. I don't think that I just don't think that they're going to be deterred. I think they're going to get through Carolina, who I think is the next best team there. The Leafs and the Panthers. Listen, the Leafs have their issues for a long time. Some people say they're cursed or whatever, but I actually think that the Devils are going to. I think they could be poised to make a Stanley Cup run.
Yeah, I mean, this Jack Hughes kid is incredible, and they're a young, scrappy, very uber talented team that when they score, they could score in bunches. It seems like they could just score 5 goals, out of nowhere, 4 or 5 goals, and that was kind of their formula. I mean, listen, for a team that young to be down 0-2 and lose both those games, not only down 0-2, but you lost those games on home ice. Yeah. And then you go to MSG, which is one of the craziest venues in all of sports. And to even the series back up, that was the turning point. I thought that demoralized the Rangers. And it was a phenomenal series. And what I could tell you about all these upsets is I've spoken to a lot of guys who follow hockey much more than me closely and they all said the same thing. They're like, the regular season is the regular season. But when playoff hockey comes, it's just a different animal. It's a different animal. And these teams that could do so well in the regular season, all of a sudden, these other teams, they turn the juice up a little bit, and it's a totally different animal in the playoffs. And I think we're seeing that.
It's scrappy. It's a dog-eat-dog game. Like, these guys are absolutely grueling. And I know we don't really talk hockey on this show, and we don't really focus on it. But to me, I mean, we talk about the NFL and the playoffs. The NFL playoffs last year, aside from a couple games,
they stunk.
Was terrible.
Especially if you compare them to the year prior, because the year prior, the NFL playoffs that was the best playoffs I've ever seen. Divisional round, wild card round, incredible.
I got to tell you, the NHL playoffs very rarely fail to disappoint, because it's an absolute all-out grind, and these guys are given everything they have. It's just every shift they're 100% going to it. I have been loving watching, and I will say this year I did not watch as much hockey as I have in the past. This NHL playoffs has been spectacular. It's been really, really fun to watch. We'll do one more topic quickly, and then
I was just going to say the NFL. It's sometimes NFL, the basketball playoffs, NHL playoffs, MLB playoffs, they get a little bit more leeway because the NFL, there's one game. And if that one game was a stinker, that's it. It's over. No matter how good of a game or bad of a game, it's over. These guys could get up to 7 opportunities to go out there and put on a show. So sometimes, it's tough to compare the two, but I will agree that the intensity of the NHL playoffs, I would say you're probably not going to find anything as intense than that other than football. Basketball, baseball is just not as intense. It's not.
Will you continue to watch the Devils
because all my friends are like the night everyone came over for the draft, we had the draft on the bar TV with no volume. So I was just watching that, but everyone who came over, they wanted the Devils Rangers game 5, I think that was. Yeah, it was game 5 last Thursday. They wanted game 5 on the big TV with the sound, which I had no problem doing. That's fine. And I mean, these guys were into it. Everybody but Nicky Juice is a Rangers guy, but all my other friends are all Devils fans. All Devils fans.
Juice probably got absolutely bodied.
He did. He's been getting destroyed now for 48 hours in the group chat. And I'm telling guys, I almost want to say, I'd be like, you guys, like, he's dead already. Like, leave him alone. Like, the body's cold now. It's got rigor mortis to set in. It's done.
Was it like that Simpsons meme where they're kicking the kid?
Yes, he's already dead.
Somebody stop. He's already
dead, man. I mean, they went ballistic on him, but
all right. Well, let's do one more topic, and then we'll go into a couple questions. Quickly want to just ask you your thoughts on the Lamar Jackson signing. Obviously, I think for the Ravens, to me, it's the right move. But dude, I don't understand some of these contracts, man. And I know we've talked about it. They just continue to raise. And at what point are teams going to be like, listen, this is too much to put into one player with injuries and all these things at play. Lamar Jackson has been hurt. Last year, barely played, it seemed, for a majority of the season. Do you think that this deal is merited? Do you think that it's the right thing for the Ravens to do? I don't know. I think it is, but to me, it's just man, you're putting all your eggs in one basket and hoping that he doesn't get hurt.
So about a month ago, we talked about this on Sportsmen, and we were in the thick of, is he going to come back? Is he not? That was when the news came out that he had asked to be traded and all that nonsense. And I said, I was like, I really felt that he would end up being a Baltimore Raven. One way or another, he was going to stay with Baltimore. I didn't think it would be on the tag. Obviously, that would never have turned out pretty. I think that, listen, the league, the salary cap grows each year. These teams are able to hide money in ways in which they convert signing bonuses, extensions, and that doesn't count against the cap. And what does count against the cap? There are ways that these teams sneak around the salary cap sometimes. There's ways to do it. Now, it can catch up to you years down the road because eventually the cap hit is going to play. But with the signing bonuses and the guaranteed money, listen, they know they're in competition with the other major sports that guarantee a lot of money. They know that every year when the salary cap raises, the expectation is if the quarterback's the hottest commodity in the league, it's the highest paid position. They're setting benchmark after benchmark. Mahomes' deal was a benchmark deal. Then Jalen Hurts' deal was a benchmark deal. Now Lamar Jackson's and Joe Burrow's sitting there in Cincinnati, probably salivating, licking his chops, waiting to see what his deal is going to be. Justin Herbert, another guy who, to me, now here's the big difference. When you're talking about paying guys astronomical money like this, the three guys that we've mentioned, Mahomes, multiple Super Bowl winners. Hurts, now an NFC champion, has been to the Super Bowl. Lamar, a league MVP and has been to the playoffs, albeit not successful in the playoffs, but has won his division, has made it to the playoffs, has been consistent. The guy to me, Joe Burrow, another guy, AFC championship games, back-to-back.
Yeah.
Went to a Super Bowl, won the AFC, right?
No one could question.
The guy to me that you cannot break the bank for just yet, and you know what? If he's got a problem with that, I would try, if I was the organization sitting on the other side of the negotiation table, I would say, look, you want the money of these guys. You have not done anything these guys have done yet. So I can't give you that money. You can't get that money. You haven't earned it yet. You haven't earned it yet. I'm sorry. And don't tell me that he hasn't had good fucking teams. Don't tell me that, because he has Austin Eckler. He's got Clemson Mike. He's got Keenan Allen. He's got a bevy of weapon defense. He had Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, and he had on the back end Derwin James. These teams, you want to blame somebody? You could blame the coach. You could blame the quarterback.
I think the coach deserves a lot of blame.
This deserves a ton of blame. But if Justin Herbert, as a quarterback who you're ready to break the bank for, has that big of a lead in Jacksonville, I understand the defense letdown, but as the quarterback of that team, you got to find a way to make first downs and bleed that clock out so that a collapse like that does not happen. That has to be owned by the quarterback. The quarterback has to take responsibility in theory, and while it may not be his fault, he should always take the bullet for the team, and I'm not saying that Herbert doesn't do that. What I'm saying is I am not setting a record-breaking money precedent for a guy who hasn't even made a playoff appearance yet. I can't do that. Now, maybe at the end of this season, that narrative will be dead and they'll make the playoffs. They'll win a playoff, not make the playoffs. I'm sorry, win a playoff game, win a playoff. For a guy who hasn't won a playoff game, I can't do that yet. He's not a league MVP. He's not a conference champion. He hasn't been to a Super Bowl. I'm just not ready to make a financial commitment like that if I'm the Chargers. Not yet.
But for the Ravens, you think that Lamar
has proven himself more to me than Justin Herbert has. Think about what Lamar's had offensively outside of our guy, Mark Andrews. What has Lamar had weaponry-wise?
Well, Rashad Bateman's an up-and-coming player.
But Joe, let's compare. But Herbert walked into Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler. Like, these guys are Pro Bowl level players.
He had prior to this year, he
had Hollywood Brown,
which is whatever. I mean,
he's a one-trick pony.
He's got Beckham Jr. now as a secondary.
Oh no, this is a year for Lamar now. This is a must-have year for the Ravens. Got to make a run to close to. Here's the problem: the AFC is just a fucking gauntlet, man. And now with Rodgers in New York, you got Rodgers in New York, Allen in Buffalo, Tua in Miami. The Chiefs are still excellent. The Chargers are going to be a good team. Denver now with Sean Payton, are they going to have a bounce back year? The Jaguars with fucking Trevor Lawrence look like the most up and coming team towards the end of the year last year. The AFC is a fucking gauntlet, and it's going to be. And I forgot Joe Burrow in Cincinnati.
The AFC is so much better than the NFC.
It's loaded.
It's
the
not
NFC, man, this could be a year where a team
but
that ain't that good could make a run.
You know what, Mikey? That's not been the case for a long time. The NFC was the better.
Very true.
So it's an ebb and flow in the NFL, and
very true.
I think the AFC is taking a rise. Listen, we'll try to we got to end this a little bit early. We got a little bit more episode than before.
We got 20 minutes.
But I'm going to try to do. Let's. I got a question here. We're going to talk about NBA here quickly from Sam Christensen. Who do you have coming out of each conference to win the NBA Finals? I'll start. You can follow. Right now, I got to tell you, I know it might not be the sexy pick or the pick that everybody likes. I really like coming out of the Western Conference right now. I think the Lakers are going to do it, man. I know that's a wild. Listen, I know that's a wild thought process. The other team, obviously, the Nuggets look unbelievable right now. Jokic is balling. They have a 2-game lead right now. But I do think the Suns are going to press back. I think that's going to be a long series. I think that goes to 6 games or 7 games, maybe. The Suns are not going to roll over and die. I think this is going to be a really tough, hard-fought series. I think if the Lakers can beat the Warriors in this round, I really do think that the Lakers, they have Anthony Davis playing better than he's ever had. They got LeBron James, who's a seasoned vet, who knows how to win games, and especially in the playoffs. And they got a lot of role guys, man. Austin Reeves, Malik Beasley, Vanderbilt. They got D'Angelo Russell. They got guys who play their role, and I really like what I'm seeing out of them. I think I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say the Lakers. I know that's not like the favorite pick in the Eastern Conference. I got to go with Boston, man. Boston, I know they lost the first game to the Sixers, but Embiid is banged up. I don't know how healthy he's going to be. Miami right now, they're playing good, but Butler just got hurt. The Knicks are definitely not it. So I think, to me, Boston is going to come out of the East. In the West, I have a bit of a wild card in the Lakers. But it's been fun watching the NBA playoffs so far. To me, I've really enjoyed it. I know we talked about in another episode that they've been kind of lackluster the NBA season, but when the playoffs come, these big time players really start showing up, and the games show and then become much better because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know we talked about Kings against the Warriors.
Yeah, that was
good. And I picked the Warriors, and ultimately it came out. I know, it was very close, and it looked like you were right, Joe. It looked like the Kings were going to come out of it. Curry did what Curry does. I'm going to stick with the Warriors. I'm going to just stick with the Warriors. I picked them to win against the Kings. I'm going to just continue to pick them. I think they have championship pedigree. I think Steph Curry, if he's going to play the way he's been playing, I don't know. This guy, he's different. He's a different alien, man. This guy is he's different. And then out of the East, I'd love to say I think the Knicks are going to do it. And I'm glad that the Knicks got through the first round. That was awesome. But for them to drop that game to Miami after Butler got hurt, it's a must win for them tonight against Miami.
And they're losing half.
Yeah. So, I think Boston is the most sensible pick, but again, Embiid not playing is very concerning for the Sixers. Otherwise, I'd say, I think the Sixers, it could be their time, and I hate to go chalk, but I'm going to give me Boston against the Warriors in the NBA Finals. That's what I think it'd be. I think that's
hell of an NBA.
And I tell you what, I'm going to take the Warriors to win the whole thing. How about that? I'll do you one better. I think the Warriors are going to win the whole thing. I'm going to just ride him.
Yeah, listen, it's not a bad play to ride a guy like Steph. He's a seasoned vet, and the guy.
All my chips in the Curry basket.
I'll take Boston to win the whole thing. I think they have so much depth, so much talent. We're going to run one more question, and then we'll wrap it up here, Mikey V. Quick question coming out of Joe Bongoivi. I don't know if I'm Joey Bongoivi. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I probably am not. But he had
how does it spell? Bongiv.
Bongoivi. Yeah, Bongoy with the VIE at the end.
Bongoive.
Goy. Bongo.
Oh, with a Y. No, if it was an I, I'd say it's Bon Jove, but it's, yeah, I don't know. Bon Goive, I guess. Yes, Joe, we're sorry we butchered your name.
Yeah. Anyways, neither here nor there. We got your question. He goes, thoughts on the start of the MLB season. Stats starting to shape out, and some guys are having insane years. I know the Yankees, man. They are.
God, they are.
I know it's a soft spot, but we got to touch base.
It's not a soft spot. I'll put it all out there. The New York Yankees and Brian Cashman decided that after watching the way this team gets through the regular season year in and year out and proceeds to go into the playoffs and get absolutely embarrassed by the Houston Astros every single postseason for the same fucking reasons. Not that they can't pitch, because they cannot hit the baseball consistently. They cannot hit the baseball consistently. And his answer to that was, guess what, New York? We re-signed the homegrown guy for $300+ million in Aaron Judge, and that's your gift, and that's where you're getting. They signed Carlos Rodon. I would have much rather seen them go after a couple quality hitters in the lineup to add some consistency to the lineup. They didn't do it, and now Rodon just had another setback on the mound today with his back. This guy is getting a second opinion. Who knows when the fuck Rodon's even going to pitch? The team has been horrible. I understand there's injuries, but there's injuries every year. Giancarlo Stanton, every year it's the same story. This is like Groundhog's Day every single season. And what'll happen is they'll come back, they'll win a bunch of games. Judge and Stanton will hit a bunch of home runs. Everyone will be excited to go. But listen, by the time, I'll tell you what, let's see where the Yankees are by the time we roll in, Audi Club rolls in against the Red Sox on June 10th at the stadium. Let's see where they are.
I hope it's turned
at
around.
That point. Let's hope, because they're at the bottom of the division right now. And I tell you what,
well, they're better than the Red Sox. They're better than the Red Sox.
I know, but I'm just saying, record-wise, I believe they're at the bottom of the division now. And
it's a tough division. By the way, Tampa Bay looks unbelievable.
Tampa Bay's on a historic pace, right? And I don't expect they're not going to keep up that kind of pace. But the Yankees, when it comes to the postseason, this team is going to be it's going to be the same, unless there's some kind of crazy moves made at the trade deadline. This team will exit the playoffs this year the same way they've exited the playoffs every year prior to the Houston Astros. They will get embarrassed. They won't knock in any runs. The pitching will be okay outside of Garrett Cole, who's been fucking magnificent.
He's really turned.
He's been magnificent. He's been everything that you wanted Garrett Cole to be. You wanted to pair Rodon with him. You wanted to pair that with Nestor. Nestor's struggled last couple starts, but again, he's better once the weather gets hot. But this team is off the rails right now, and there's no answer for it whatsoever, except to look at Brian Cashman and say he was satisfied with mediocrity. He's been satisfied. Him and Hal Steinbrenner have been satisfied with mediocrity, and they thought it's insulting what they did. They re-signed Judge for all that money, and that was the thing that was to shut everybody up, and there was nothing else done after that, except Rodon, who doesn't look like he's going to play.
Well, it's early on. That's the good news. Hopefully, I always say better to stink early than to stink late.
Very true also.
And
they did this last year, by the way. They stunk at the beginning of last year, too.
Let's hope for the best, Mikey V. That's all we can really do at this point. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you guys joining us. As always, we love you. Please, if you haven't already done it, hit our link, subscribe, comment, post a question for us. We'd be happy to answer it, and share it with us. We want to continue to grow the Sportsman. This is a fun segment. Mikey V, thanks for joining us. That's another episode of the Sportsman. We'll see you guys next week.